Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the land of enchantment in the beautiful state of New Mexico along the Albuquerque Rio Rancho area. And today's date, Tuesday, July 29th, 2015. Yeah, I'm just, had to do little chores, little errands, and all that good stuff. But I'll be in the state for a while and head on yonders next week at the latest. Just had to visit some family and do some other business as well, which things are being fulfilled. And I have my boy Jake here hanging out with me, just relaxing. Look at me with those lion eyes. But it's all good, my friends. So I've just did a little scoping out. Here's some straw man rhetoric on Facebook as usual, especially in the political arena. You know, there's one person did a video footage of the Black Lives Matter, and he said anyone, and one Dinkleberry said anyone that's non-African descent have to go the other side of the perimeter. So I'm thinking, is this person a hired stooge? Or in just a proud divider? Because the whole thing with police shootings and so forth. Let me tell you all you knuckleheads this. That trying to refute with me on Facebook and other areas. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. If you believe the only problem with the police is from only by African Americans, innocent people, no. It's a lot more than that, my friends. And that's why I say all lives matter. Not just one particular group. A lot of us are feeling the effects of innocent people getting shot by the police and so forth. Because I know I was watching the video. It happened in Cincinnati by the campus cop. Even though the gentleman was trying to move, resisting the arrest, but it was unnecessary in good faith what the officer did. He has been indicted for murder. So the prosecutor still has to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So we still have to play that. You still have to play that role. Don't get excited. Don't get the hype. Be focused, vigilant, and have principles for one another. Don't use the race game because that's another mind control agenda. And that's why some folks don't like some of my comments. Hey, I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit. It's not here to hurt people. It's to make them think the bigger picture. So that's my little rant on that. And I just find something laughable, I would say, in good faith, by the city of Los Angeles, also known as the City of Angels. This came from the LA Times. There's going to be a couple articles on that. I'm going to give you my rant on it as well, plus merit. And just to prove my point, this one here is entitled LA City Council Bans Large Capacity Ammunition Magazines. In the photo, you see people with their signs, Stop Gun Violence Now. How do those guns be real bad? Do they contain artificial intelligence? I don't know what these knuckleheads think. They probably do believe Sweet Polly Purebred is their hero and Underdog is their idol. However, I am going to read this. This article came from Emily Albert Rees. That's the reporter. It came out actually yesterday, 8:08 p.m. And as it reads here, defies sharp warnings from gun rights groups. Los Angeles thrust itself into a national debate over gun control Tuesday as city lawmakers voted unanimously to ban the possession of firearm magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Such magazines have been the common thread in almost all mass shootings that have devastated the country from Newton to Virginia Tech to Columbine, said Juliet Leftwich, legal director of the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. I have a question there, Miss Leftwich. Can you explain to me why in Newton, Connecticut, also is the Sandy Hook shootings? Could you explain to me, according to the FBI reports, in 2012, there were 0 murders in Newton, Connecticut? And can you explain why the so-called Sandy Hook shootings, Virginia Tech, and Columbine, what they have in common? They occurred in firearm-free zones. Can you explain that, Miss Juliet Leftwich? I don't think so, because it will put you out of business when the truth hurts. But I will continue on here. Backers of the plan said it was a small but meaningful step to minimize the bloodshed by forcing attackers to at least interrupt their rampage to stop and reload. I can dream about it. Obey these laws will make us feel safe. Whoa, I can dream about it. Now we'll continue on here. The National Rifle Association and other gun rights groups have threatened to sue Los Angeles' new rules, arguing that they violate the Second Amendment and the preempted existing state law. Happened in San Francisco when they tried to do the handgun ban, and it was ruled unconstitutional under the state constitution, or preempted laws. But I will continue on here. In reaction, Councilman Peter Krikorian declared before a cheering crowd outside of City Hall, if the NRA wants to sue us over this, bring it on. Woo! It shows how manly they are. And people applauding. You know what that means there, Los Angeles? Your tax dollars would be at work if the NRA sues over this. Mayor Eric Garcetti said he was eager to sign the LA measure, which passed 12-0 with the 3 council members absent, even as city officials celebrated to the newly passed restrictions. Some gun control activists were dismayed to hear about the proposal to exempt retired police officers from the rules. The 11th hour change sought by the union that represents Los Angeles police. So hey, who's going to benefit the most? Criminals or armed criminals, organized crime. Hooray for corruption. Hooray for corruption. LA will be safe again. Alright, I will proceed here. California law already generally bans the manufacture of such large capacity magazines, as well as offering them for sale or bring them into the state. So, you know why? So they can keep them for themselves. And when the crap hits the fan, they'll turn it against you. The so-called Golden State. Which I say, the police state. Change it to the police state of LA, okay? But state law does not prohibit people from possessing them. With Krikorian and others argued is a loophole that jeopardizes public safety. What loophole? These guys are a bunch of clowns, bred in circuses, my friends, yeah? And I will continue, and I will proceed here. People who want to defend their families don't need a 100-round drum magazine and automatic weapon to do it, said Krikorian, who championed the ban at the rally Tuesday outside City Hall. So he's saying, come on, criminals! If you got more than a 100-round drum, you can bring it on! Okay, guys, don't have a lot less. And all you guys want to be in foreign countries, want to invade us? Come on down! We don't need 100 rounds to defend our city. We'll just use BB guns and slingshots and pellet guns. Yeah. Okay. It says here, who championed the ban at rally Tuesday outside City Hall. But if someone wanted to do harm, Krikorian added, imagine what a gunman on the sidewalk could do with a kind of firepower with a crowd like this. Los Angeles lawmakers first sought to draft such rules more than 2 years ago. Survivors of gun violence lamented that it had taken for long the council to press forward with the ban and urged lawmakers to act. Among them were Ruett and Rhonda Foster, whose 7-year-old son Evan was killed 18 years ago when a gunman fired scores of bullets at a local park, peppering their car with more than 24 shots. If their attacker could not fire so many bullets before reloading, Evan might be still here today, Ruett Foster told the council on Tuesday. I will give them my condolences, but you know what? If you got people that were armed in California that may have shoot back, I know one thing, don't be surprised if that assailant will take a dump in his pants and run like a coward that he is. And now we'll continue on here. Gun rights groups argue the law violates the rights of citizens to protect themselves. Ammunition magazines that hold more than 10 rounds are in common sense for self-defense. They are overwhelmingly chosen for that purpose, said Anna M. Braver, an attorney with Michael Associates, who represents the NRA and the California Rifle and Pistol Association. Indeed, millions are in the hands of good American citizens. As such, they are protected by the Constitution, Brewer said in a statement. At the Tuesday hearing, the Cal Gun Shooting Sports Association also raised concerns I don't think it's going to have any effect on gun violence, said the association director Chad Chung, pointing out that people in neighboring cities such as Burbank and Glendale could still possess the magazines. Of course, come on. There's a will, there's a way. Bad people are going to do bad things. They'll do it regardless of whatever laws are in place, Chung said. The Los Angeles ordinance is modeled on rules adopted in San Francisco and Sunnyvale that have so far survived legal challenges. Leftwich from the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence assured the council it was on the firm legal ground. Kinda, sort of, it's the only way. Kinda, sort of, will get us through the day. Alright, but Barbara, whose firm represents gun rights groups, said the legal battles are not over and clients are now considering litigations over the LA rules. New ordinance gives Angelos, who own such magazines, 60 days to remove, surrender, or legally sell or transfer them after it goes into effect. Breaking the law would be a misdemeanor. Garcia has 10 days to sign the measure. It will take effect a little more than a month later. You guys don't know what you're doing, huh? Bunch of clowns. Alright, continue on. The Los Angeles rules exempt, among others, police and military gun owners, licensed firearms dealers, and people who obtain guns before January 1st, 2000 can only be used with such magazines. So, if you're just an ordinary citizen, you are exempt. Can we say bigotry or bias, or some people love to use that word, racist, in general. We can use that as well, right? To be a little bit more dramatic. And I will continue on here. At the Tuesday meeting, Councilman Mitch Englander also proposed an exemption for any retired police officer who holds a valid current permit to carry concealed weapon privilege. Englander said in a written statement that the police union recently requested a balanced approach to protect police officers in this ordinance. Peter Rapovich, director of the Los Angeles Police Protective League, said it was important for police, including retirees, to be prepared to meet any threat to public safety. There are additional eyes and ears out there, Rapovich said. So, if you are just an ordinary person, working class person, that is not a police officer, and anything that was addressed here aforementioned, you are duped, because they think they are smarter than you, that you can't handle these things. And I will proceed. The council voted narrowly to ask city lawyers to draft such an amendment, which is expected to return to the council for debate and a vote next week. 4 council members, Paul Koritz, Nuri Martinez, David Ryu, and Mark C. Harris Dawson voted against drafting the amendment. Koritz said he didn't see an overwhelming reason to exempt retired officers who he could occasionally be prone to the same problems we're trying to avoid. 8 council members voted in favor. The minimum needed to advance of the proposal. If the city council allowed this exemption, none of us are going to be happy, said Women Against Gun Violence Executive Director Margaret Bennett. Oh yeah, those bad guns, yes. Exempting retired officers from the rules tugs at left-leaning council between gun control groups staunchly opposed to excluding more Alleganos and the politically muscular police union, which has made more than $34,000 in campaign contributions to city candidates and elected officials since 2010. The police union has also pushed for retired officers to be exempt from another proposed ordinance that would require engine owners to lock up handguns or disable them with trigger locks when they are not being used at home, a measure meant to prevent deadly accidents. Representatives said retired officers needed to be able to respond swiftly to threats that has undergone extensive training on handling their weapons. Okay, so they like to will require lock up handguns and disable them with trigger locks when they are not being used at home, and a measure meant prevent deadly accidents. Okay, so I know many people in Los Angeles can do that, can secure their firearms, but you gotta have the city of Los Angeles gonna point their finger and go, you don't know how to do this, so we're gonna tell you how to think and wipe your rear end, okay? Absolutely. That's what the little bastards want you to contemplate. Okay, Krikorian and several other lawmakers have balked at the idea of excluding retired officers from those storage rules, which are expected to come back before lawmakers for a vote next week. However, Krikorian said he supported exempting retired officers from large capacity magazine ban because it wouldn't pose a similar risk to the public. Well, so the question I have here is the people in Los Angeles. They don't want you to have those mass 10-round capacity. Why? Because the city wants power over you. They know that you are not competent of taking care of yourselves and your families and being personally responsible on your firearms. Firearm safety is everyone's responsibility. If you don't know how to use it, learn it. Get educated. Be trained by it. Practice it. Don't tell the city. The city shouldn't tell you how to think. They work for you, not the other way around. And I don't give two craps what these so-called gun violence groups are. So if it becomes violent crime other than firearms, they could really care less. But these gun violent advocate charlatans, I call them that, quacks, believe that you're not capable of taking care of your own responsibilities. So that's just the LA Times' perspective. And I'm going to check on here. Channel 2, Los Angeles leaders outlaw high-capacity magazines. And this is just a little brief. Los Angeles City Council has voted to ban possession of high-capacity gun magazines following deadly mass shootings nationwide. Tuesday's 12-0 vote closes loophole in a state law that banned the manufacture and the sales of magazines holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition, but not their possession. Mayor Eric Garcetti said he'll sign the measure, saying it will save lives and prevent crime. And I gotta say one thing about you, Mayor Garcetti. You're living in a wet dream. Go manifest in Disneyland. Resign, manifest in Disneyland, because you're not in the real world. People who have the magazines will have 60 days from the time the law takes effect to sell, destroy, or take them out of the city. Councilman Paul Krikorian led a 2-year push for the ban. A rally before the vote mentioned mass shooting near the University of California, Santa Barbara, Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, and Reserve Center in Chattanooga, Tennessee. As what we say, they occurred in where? Firearm-free zones. So, another wet dream report or rhetoric from these Dinkleberries. Alright, and I'm going to hit here. Al Jazeera America. See what they have to say. You know, they got their pros and cons as well. I'm pretty fair. I don't like worship these people anyway. And it says, LA becomes second major California city to ban large capacity gun magazines. And it says here, the Los Angeles City Council voted unanimously to ban the possession of large capacity gun magazines, following San Francisco to become the second major city in California to take that step. I like to say about San Francisco, go, treasons and tyrannies in the air in San Francisco. Now the city of angels is just following the herd. Okay, sorry about that. And I will proceed. The ordinance passed on Tuesday prohibited Los Angeles residents from possessing a handgun or a rifle magazine that fits more than 10 rounds. Residents would have 60 days after the law takes effect to remove, sell, or transfer such magazines from city limits in compliance with state law or surrender them to the Los Angeles Police Department. The word of the day, extortion. Look it up, folks. Extortion. The law would take effect 30 days after Mayor Garcetti signs a move that he was eager to make, he said in a statement. The legislation comes amid increasingly urgent debate following recent mass shootings in the United States, including last week's movie shooting in Lafayette, Louisiana, and an attack on a historic black church in Charleston, South Carolina last month. Firearm-free zones. All right, continue on here. Los Angeles Times reported that the ban would not include police and military gun owners, licensed firearm dealers, and people who obtained guns before 2000 that can only be used with large capacity magazines. Bigotry's in the air. All right. Similar ordinances in San Francisco and Sunnyvale, California have so far withstood legal challenges. Last year, a federal judge upheld a Colorado law banning magazines that hold more than 15 rounds. On the way, I went to the federal judge in Colorado. It's in your Constitution, Article 2. The people in Colorado should still tell them to stick it. The step we're taking today is not a wild step, said Council Member Paul Kakorian, who sponsored the ordinance at a rally before the vote. People who want to defend them homes don't need 1,000-round drums magazine to do so. Okay, so if a war breaks out or a big riot, you got to dial 911. Yep, you'll die, because here's the thing, my friends. The police in Los Angeles and the state of California as a whole, they're not obligated to protect you. Look up sovereign immunity and tort liability tort. Look it up. The ordinance opponents were represented by Chad Chung, director of Calgun Shooting Sports Association. I think it's more of a people problem rather than a gun problem, said Chung, who uses large capacity gun magazines and target shooting contests. Nobody knows more about firearm safety than I do, he added, underscoring the notion that with the proper training, people could possess such magazines safely. Thank you. Calguns is one group that has pending lawsuits against San Francisco and Sunnyvale ordinances. Chung said that organization would discuss during their next board meeting rather to file a similar lawsuit in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Times reported that National Rifle Association has also threatened to sue over the new law. The Times, quote, Councilman Corrigan before a crowd said, if everyone wants to sue us over, then bring it on. Your tax dollars at work, LA. Remember, your tax money is going to that suit. So they're going to be writing up more tickets and supporting, exercising more victimless crimes. Bring in the money, because we can't be fiscally responsible. Next week, the City Council will take up a proposed ordinance requiring owners to lock their firearms at home, and will consider an amendment to the gun magazine ordinance that will exempt retired police officers. Like I said again, the people in Los Angeles, those yahoos, those dinkleberries that you call the council, don't believe you're not personally responsible for handling your firearms. Okay? Here's the thing I can say on a legal basis. What's done is invalid and unmeritable. Of course, we can look at the Second Amendment U.S. Constitution, the right to keep and bear arms, and we can look at Article 4, Amendment 4 about legal search and seizures, and 5, taking property without due process. And of course, the 9th Amendment, the enumeration rights. Okay, well, first we're going to go to the California Constitution. Okay, and it says here, Article 1, Section 1, entitled as Declaration of Rights. Section 1, all people are by nature free and independent and have inalienable rights. Among these are enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and pursuing and obtaining safety, happiness, and privacy. Yes, this ordinance and others are violating that. And we can go a little bit further down over here, and I believe it is section 12. Yeah, section 7, article 1, section 7. No, not that. Sorry about that. And here's one. It'd be good. You could challenge too. Section 9 of Article 1, a bill of attainder ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts may not be passed. So I consider that to be an ex post facto law. Oh, yeah. And, of course, I'm trying to look a little further. Article 1, Section 13. The rights of the people to be secured in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. That include those more than 10 round ammunition clips. Against unreasonable searches and seizures may not be violated, and a warrant may not be issued except on probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. That's right. That is another violation. And of course, we can go through stuff on due process. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's in here. Yeah, section 15, and it's the second paragraph. A person may not be twice be put in jeopardy for the same offense, be compelled in the criminal call to be witness against themselves, or to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That's right. So that's another violation right there, my friends. Article 1, Section 15. Okay? And I'm going to see here. Ooh, hold on here. Let me see if they have the enumeration rights in Article 1. I don't think so. But, yeah, right here, Section 24. The rights guaranteed by this Constitution are not dependent on those guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Okay, it tells you everything on here. And I will say the third paragraph, it says here, this Declaration of Rights may not be construed to impair or deny others retained by the people. So you have all that, okay? So Article 1, Section 24, we can hit 26 as well. And like it says here, the provisions of the Constitution are mandatory and prohibitory unless expressed by words that they are declared to be otherwise. So you know what? They're not declared. The whole thing is illegal, null and void under Article 1 of those particular sections. So you can really look this up yourselves. It will be greatly appreciated. So that's just that aspect of it, okay? And we can hit here, Article 2, and it's a recall. And I like what it says here, Article 2, Section 1, says here, all political power is inherited in the people. Government is instituted for the protection, security, and benefit. And they have the right to alter or reform it when the public good may be required. So that's Section, Article 2, Section 1. If I'm correct, I'm looking for Section 13. Yes, it says here, recall is a power of the electors to remove an elective officer. What does that mean? You can recall every single one of them, including the mayor, on breaching their oath of office, which I'll get that in a moment. And it tells you here in Article 2, Section 14, it tells you how everything is done. So it gives you a whole rundown. But you do have that power to recall, man, you know? In Article 2, look up Article 2. And the reason why I say you can do that, because they breached their oath under Article 20, Section 3 of the California Constitution. And as I says here, the members of the legislature and all public officers and employees, executive, legislative, and judicial, except such inferior officers and employees as may be by law exempted, shall, before they enter upon the duties of their representative offices and subscribe the oath of the following. I, they'll state their name. do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Ooh, interesting there, right? And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. And it says here, and I do further swear or affirm that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that now advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California by force or violence or other unlawful means. Hopefully you folks are paying attention. Within the next 5 years immediately preceding the taking of this oath or affirmation, I have not been a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that advocate the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California by violence of force or other unlawful means, except as follows. They have this whole thing about no affiliations, with other words, no exceptions. As I hold office of a certain position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States by California by force or other unlawful means, and no other oath, declaration, or test shall be required for the qualification of any public office or employment. Public officer employees include every officer and employee of the state, including the University of California, every county, city and county district and authority, including any department, division, bureau, board, commission, agency, or instrumentally for any of the foregoing. So, according to that, they just breached their oath. Voila! You got it right there, folks. You got the power to recall their asses or wait for the next election. Campaign against these ungrateful, tyrannical vultures, which is in the City of Angels Council and that douchebag mayor Garcetti. It sounds like Garcetti. It sounds like a fish, some pathetic looking fish. But like I said before, I am critical on this, okay? However, it's I'm judging them on their actions. There's no hatred towards these people directly, but it's the principle. These individuals are unacceptable. They have breached their oath of office. You guys got the power to recall them. If not, campaign against them. If they're running for other positions, call them out on it. Don't be afraid. They need you more you need them. And remember what Thomas Jefferson says, I'll make a quick quote, a little rebellion now and then is good. Resist the law. Don't comply to it. It's null and void. End of story. Alright, I just did my little reading and rant for over a half hour. And this is good news here. It came from ABC 13. It says here, the police pastor shoots intruder at Baytown Church. And this is from KTRK, as it reads here, would-be burglar messed with the wrong church and pastor. Tuesday, Baytown police said the man kicked the door of the church in the New Beginnings early in an attempt to rob it. We have a few church break-ins here in the city of Baytown, said Pat Holmes, but ours had never been broken into. Unfortunately, today was the day. Around 6:15, police say a man broke into the church New Beginnings on North Alexander. Surveillance video shows the man breaking through the door. Little did he know that Pastor Benny Holmes was sleeping inside and he was strapped. Baytown's police responded to a shooting at a Church of New Beginnings. Police say the pastor armed himself and shot the intruder. I just want the public to know that this was a robbery. Pastor Holmes told eyewitnesses news exclusively he broke in the door, had laptops in his hand. Pastor Holmes said he woke up when he heard someone moving around the church and grabbed his gun. I commanded him to stop twice. He didn't. So for fear of my life, I did what I had to do. And that was shoot. Baytown police said Holmes shot the man in the right shoulder. They identified him as 27-year-old Lee Marvin Blue Jr. This is the second time Pastor Holmes had made headlines for stopping a would-be crook. In September, he caught a 52-year-old woman who allegedly had been stealing UPS packages off the porches in his area. She was trying to steal from the front porch, and he held her at gunpoint until the police arrived to arrest her. What could be considered the most surprising part of what happened this time around may be what happened while Blue was lying on the ground in his own blood. I led him through a sinner's prayer while he was on the floor. Pastor Holmes said he repeats the sinner's prayer after me, and that was about it. I'm going to visit him. Blue had an extensive criminal history dating back to 2005. It includes trespassing, burglary of a vehicle, and assault, just to name a few. He was taken to life flight to Memorial Hermann Hospital with a non-life-threatening injuries. He was charged with burglary of a building. Baytown police did not anticipate charges against Pastor Benny Holmes. Yeah, there's a video footage on here too, and I do have to, you can say whatever you want about Pastor Pat Holmes. He did what was right, and he didn't go around. He didn't do it out of lust or vindication or wickedness, but in good faith. It was principle. So he did had the right to defend his life and the property he's protecting. So technically, that's like a castle doctrine law if you think about it. He used force, but the pastor gave him a warning, and based on what he said about Mr. Blue did, Mr. Blue chose poorly, and that's why Pastor Holmes had to shoot him on that, and he did want to visit him on that. That's his part. That's his decision. Doesn't matter what your belief system is, but I do have to give Pastor Holmes respected homage for making this happen, because it is not a game. You're going to shoot somebody, okay? Okay, I'm pro self-defense myself. It's not some game that go around going to and be macho or anything like that. It's always going to be done in good faith. And if you watch the video, you can understand it a lot more thorough. And so I have to give him a lot of good credit and respect, man, because people like that I would like to meet, chat with them, and have a cool discussion. It's like the time when I read that book, Shooting Back, by Charles Van Wyck. St. James Church Massacre, which I talk about this a good amount of times. So, did what was right. And like I say, Pastor Holmes did the right thing. Self-defense is righteous, regardless of your race, color, creed, etc. Gender, sexual orientation, etc. It doesn't matter. We live once, my friends. Then you have to value it. I'm not going to have to go through the biblical scriptures on this, too. Everyone can look it up themselves. Don't be shy. Even according to the New Testament, Jesus was pro self-defense as well. So it's just a story, but it is like I said, it was positive on that area. It was morose, but like I said, Pastor did the right thing. All right, next one here. I got this originally from Mint News, but actually some of my friends were sharing this stuff on Facebook, and it got me real curious because the whole Bernie Sanders hype, Bernie Sanders mania, So, we're going to read something here. It says, Bernie Sanders, savior or seducer of the anti-war left? That's a question mark. This is done by Howard Linsoff, of course, our counterpunch once again. And it says here, Ashley Smith, a socialist in the Senate, the unfortunate truth about Bernie Sanders. It came out November 15, 2006. Tell the tale how the political left gets thrown under the relentless wheel of the military-industrial complex by securing supporting candidates who do not consistently serve the interests of peace. The decimation of the forces for peace is predictable, as they are sacrificed and offered up to the gods of electoral politics. The marginalization of each electoral cycle of the left is a testament on how relentless a political economic system is guaranteeing its outcome vice vis war and peace. A few years ago, an email communication from Senator Elizabeth Warren, a steadfast supporter of economic egalitarianism, okay, and regulation of the forces that control capital, left me with the same sense of how business as usual about U.S. war making has all but captured and controlled dissent voices. Only those on the fringes, not the fringes of significance and importance of the political process, are left to stand and are effectively marginalized and silenced. In the email, the senator expressed their steadfast support of the war on terrorism. While vigilance is an intelligent policy, the paths leading to the so-called war on terror are littered with counterproductive foreign and military policies. It is impossible to deny, in just one example, that U.S. support of religious fundamentalists in the 1980s in Afghanistan led in a direct line of the attacks on September 2001. As a result, we have witnessed over 13 years of endless wars. Mario Puzo's motion to keep friends close and your enemies closer needs to be recognized in a U.S. foreign policy. Senator Socialist beliefs and actions evolved in almost complete support of the Democratic Party after leaving the stage of Vermont politics, entering the national arena. Smith points out that Sanders voted with Democrats more consistently than many other Democrats. 98% of the time after writing a Smith article, Sanders' support for Democrats soon was reflected in their financing of his campaigns. And here is where Sanders' greatest equivocation has come. In spite of claims of being anti-war, his hawkish support of Clinton's military actions in the 1999 Kosovo War caused one of his advisors to quit. And there's a link for that, by the way. When anti-war activists occupied Sanders' office in 1999 because of that support of Clinton's war policies, he had them arrested. So all you Sanders supporters, you better think twice. In 2001, Sanders did not support the vote in Congress to oppose the war of Afghanistan. Congresswoman Barbara Lee stood alone. This vote was followed by his support for appropriations to support both the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. In 2003, he supported the resolution that gave the support to George W. Bush in both Iraq and the larger war against terrorism, although Sanders had been a critic of the Iraq war. What a concept. So did Hillary Clinton, and who else? James Kerry. Then Sanders supported an only gradual withdrawal from Iraq. When impeachment was on the so-called table against George W. Bush in 2006, he said the impeachment was impractical. Sanders, like his Democratic allies, has supported Israel's aggressive military policies against Palestinian statehood. He supported H.R. 282, the Iran Freedom Support Act, which was similar to the resolutions leading to the Iraq War. Indeed, it appears that Sanders is even more political right of many liberal Democrats. An article in the Huffington Post: President Bernie Sanders will save America from endless counterinsurgencies war and protects our nation's veterans. This is from July 7th, 2015, is laudable for its recognition of Sanders' support of military veterans, but is way off of the mark as far as what Sanders might accomplish against the thoroughly militarized foreign policies of the government. Presidential candidates of the past, such as Ralph Nader Gilstein and George McGovern, have strongly and bravely criticized the militarized policies of the government and were left in the political dust. My Facebook pages are loaded with posts on a daily basis lauding Bernie Sanders as a savior of the left. Yet some of his actions in Vermont and in both House and Senate at odds with the left's populist image that he attempts to put forward. Whether or not Sanders has a chance of winning the Democratic nomination for president is debatable, but readers ought not to count on him to push back on the military actions that have become routine under both Democrats and Republicans who occupy the presidency. Even President Eisenhower warned of the dangers of the military-industrial complex, went along with the expansion of that juggernaut. And the beat goes on, as does the march of empire and greed, and the wars continue. Well. That's right. He is, by the way, a freelance journalist, freelance writer. Gotta say, he is pretty damn accurate about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is nothing more than a hyped-up jack-lantern. That's why I tell my friends out there, don't believe the hype. Do your homework. Do your research. Hey, when I support Congressman Ron Paul, I thought it was a hype. No. I've done my homework. And I was fair and observant. Overall, I support a lot of his actions. I may have some disagreements, which is fine. But when you jump around, being a little bandwagon, going around, everything's awesome, long as you're on a winning team, it doesn't work. It blows back in your faces. So, this is why when people ask me about how great Bernie Sanders is, you have to question it thoroughly. Observe everything responsibly. When it comes to the presidential elections of 2016 and beyond, don't believe the hype. That includes the congressional races and plus governors and municipality races. Don't jump on the bandwagon. It will hurt you when you least expect it. So to Bernie Sanders, I was never impressed anyway. You may have some good points, but doesn't mean I'm going to kiss the floor you walk on. Because you know why? You're just another servant. And based on this article and some of your past practice, you're just like Michael Moore and Barack Obama and George W. Bush. A contradicting fool. And I say that out of love. Okay. Next one I got here. Pretty cool here. Came from True Activists. And right here is entitled, UK Police Announce They Will Stop Arresting Small-Time Marijuana Growers. This is from John Vibes. And as it reads here, life has just got a bit easier and free for cannabis users. In the UK, after the country's National Police Chiefs Council announced that they will stop arresting small-time cannabis farmers and will no longer be diverting their resources towards investigating marijuana grow operations, presumably depending on the size of the crop. If they come across a marijuana farm at the scene of the crime, or if they find one during an investigation, they will still likely arrest and charge anyone they can. However, in a recent statement, Sarah Thornton of the National Police Chiefs Council said that marijuana operations in police homes will likely be destroyed, and their names will be put in the database, but they would not be arrested. A little compromise there, huh? Thornton denied that it has anything to do with unofficial decriminalization of the herb and blamed the recent change in policy on dwindling police budgets. She also said that the police will no longer be responding to people's homes when they are robbed. Due to budget cuts and lack of police resources. Well, it's good news that nonviolent offenders will not be thrown in cages for victimless crimes. It seems that the police will be paying less attention to violent criminals as well, such as thieves. If you had a burglary, and the burglar has fled, that we won't get there as quickly as we've got there in the past. Of course, we still want to gather evidence, but we might do it in different ways, Thornton told the Daily Mail. Larger scale cannabis operations are still in danger, though. Thornton said that the cases would be dealt with according to their scale. That might depend on the circumstances. What we need to do is respond in portion to the nature of the offense. It has never been a top priority to go looking for cannabis in people's houses. It has, however, is against the law. If somebody was caught, they would be dealt with at a very lower end of the scale. What we are most concerned is about is organized crime, though those growing cannabis on an industrial scale, Thornton said. Slowly, the world's governments and police forces are beginning to lose the drug war against those who defy these illegitimate laws and risk imprisonment to live as free people who are able to make their own decisions. There's a video for that as well. And that's good news for one area and crappy news for the other when it comes to thievery, break-ins, and so forth. And I'll let the people in Britain and the UK know you need to bring back your right of self-defense, because if you defend your home from burglars, you can get arrested. It happened in one case a while back. I think, 1998, 1999? I'm not so sure. It's been a while. Bring that back. Natural law, my friends, common law, has to be exercised in the United Kingdom. Yes, you have your crackpots too, but the people in that area, that nation, jurisdiction, territory, whatever you want to call it, got to start thinking about that. Because it's proven one thing. The police aren't obligated to protect you. Budget cuts? You're not going to get any calling for burglaries? Yep, the police aren't obligated to protect you. There you go. But I'm happy about the small-time marijuana growers, and that's not arrested. But the people need to go get back and fight your laws of human, natural laws, common law in Britain, including defend your property and your family, friends, and yourselves. So I beseech to the people over there to make that a reality. And I am done with that. And this is from personalliberty.com. Pretty cool. It's by Ben Crystal. Came out today. And it's entitled The Donald Trump Show. So how many toupees will Donald Trump be wearing if he goes on tour? Alright, as it says here, if the race for major political parties' presidential nominations were halted today, Republican Donald Trump will be facing Democrat Hillary Clinton for the position of leader of most of, but increasingly less of, the free world. I like that. That's great. Flashback to the early 1980s when Trump first burst on the scene acting like he has just invented the real estate business in Midtown Manhattan. Imagine if someone told you that about 30 years hence, the guy with a dead animal on his head who keeps bolting his name to everything in the city will be within Ohio's Electoral College votes of the Oval Office. Furthermore, the only person who could stop him was, at the moment, the First Lady of Arkansas. You would tell the guy to check his meds. In those days, the idea of Donald being a serious contender for the presidency would have been far-fetched as the idea that the overweight Reverend Al Sharpton will go from getting punched out on the Morton Downey show. Actually, I saw that he got physically shoved. It was done by the gentleman from CORE, Congressional Organization for Racial Equality. I think his last name was Annis. I think he has a son too, Arthur. I could be mistaken, but a very articulate man, by the way. To becoming one of the closest advisors to the President of the United States. If someone had tried telling me that, I would have tell them they might as well give the job to some jug-eared, Urkel-esque stoner who managed to escape law school without doing any homework. I love this stuff. I'm sorry. And yet, there he is. According to the most recent polls, Trump leads the Republican Party by an average of 5 points, while Clinton's campaign is wheezing like her husband trying to explain why Ashley Madison came up to the Clinton Foundation's credit card statement. Trump is accelerating like a freight train, albeit one that might be slightly out of control. While I'm willing to acknowledge that the woman Daniel Wattenberg, so perfectly described as the Lady Macbeth of Little Rock, makes the Donald look like the right man for the job by comparison. That's too easy. Clinton is clearly as qualified for the presidency as that moody loner down the street with a tinfoil hat is to supervise a local daycare center. Put aside the scandals, missteps, and outright lies that have marked her political career. The woman wrapped up a speech on so-called global warming earlier this week and immediately jumped on a private jet. Bernie Sanders' campaign has better optics, and he thinks women fantasize about being raped. Okay? And it says here, much of the irritation of a growing number of my acquaintances, I have not yet booked passage on the Trump bandwagon, and my objections don't just stem from his tendencies toward verbal gaffes that rivals those of human cartoon of a vice president. Joe Biden, I found Trump's remarks about Senator John McCain reprehensible. Says you want about McCain's legislative record, and I could say plenty by mocking his time as a prisoner of war to score cheap political points is the kind of behavior I expect from lowlives like Jane Fonda. McCain was no John Kerry, alternating between claiming to be ashamed or be proud of his dubious record depending on the audience. He is certainly saying a lot of right things regarding repairing our dangerously malfunctioning immigration system, and I did get a kick out of his pointed refusal to back down from the political correctness warriors. There is no reason to continue validating liberals who spent their time inventing labels for people and then losing their proverbial cookies every time someone says illegal alien instead of undocumented but obviously wonderful person who is really just victim of racism. Watching Trump lower the boom on MSNBC pundit Jose Diaz-Balart last week in Laredo, Texas was magnificent, but Trump's not the only conservative running for president who opposes Democrats' policies of opening our borders to incoming traffic 24/7, 365, even if he's currently the noisiest about it. As for his domestic platform, while I will still allow that Trump could spend his time playing golf and bobbing for bundlers and still provide more peace and tranquility than President Barack Obama's more than 6 years of shovel-ready jobs, so-called green energy, boondoggles, illegal IRS harassments, race baiting, domestic spying, and abominable Obamacare. But again, a plotted plant could outperform Obama on the home front, and it is possible the plant in question could do without a resume that includes a multiple bankruptcies to which involved its personal finances. Look, I get the attraction. Trump is absolutely afraid to say exactly what he's thinking at any given moment. Sometimes he drives the open border traders into hysterics, as he did with his now infamous but entirely accurate rapist remark. But I return that the reason why he's so garrulous may have to do more with herbious than honor. I just cannot shake the feeling that Trump is just adding another chapter on the ongoing reality TV series that is most of his life. There's a guy who has spent most of his adult life acting like he needs publicity the way you and I need oxygen. It strikes me that the 8 years of Clinton's debauchery and 8 years of Obama's house party are things upon which we should be aiming to improve by more than just simple party affiliation and basic understanding of border security. At the very least, Trump's six-figure donations to causes like the Clintons, cross out Global Money Troll Foundation, deserve more than some extra scrutiny. Of course, it's only July 2015. Today, insurmountable leads are tomorrow's margins of defeat. Imagine if someone had told you back in the day that the fat guy who stared too long at the interns in the Arkansas governor's mansion was less than a decade away from molesting the interns in the White House. That's a lot crazier than Donald becoming the commander-in-chief. That was nicely done, Mr. Crystal. I enjoyed reading this to my audience. And like I said, my friends, from these parties came from two separate wings from the same vulture. Oh yeah, so people can manifest about Donald Trump all you want and drool over Bernie Sanders. Don't mean a damn thing to me. I always tell people this. He's just another salesman, entertaining, and I was curious how many toupees he's going to have on the road. He hates saying that. Call him toupee, man. Yeah, he has some good points, but you know what? It's just another product. He's just trying to sell stuff. When he drops out, he'll go on his TV show. Get everyone come in. Yeah, watch my show. The Intern or whatever the damn. I think it's The Intern it's called. Oh, The Apprentice. Yeah, The Apprentice. Yeah, that tells you how much I really like his show. I could really care less. But like I said, my friends, always observe responsibly. That's what I say about the Donald Trump show. Another example of bread and circuses. And it says here, this one came out again from the personal liberty, which I like. I enjoy some of their stuff. A little swap here. And it says here, Don't Say American at the University of New Hampshire. It's by Ben Bullard. And he writes, if you want to walk through the true path of enlightenment and blissful and inoffensive peace at the University of New Hampshire, to unlearn the word American at the institution of higher learning. That's just one of many words you'll be unlearning if you have any chauvinistic goal of reaching down to be everybody's friend. You need to mind wipe words like homosexuals, foreigners, and fathering. How offensive is that? That is, except for the occasions when you must retrieve these kinds of Luddite cultural relics in order to chastise a scratch, educate someone who's been belatedly using them. American, illegal alien, foreigner, mothering and fathering are just a handful of words deemed problematic by the University of New Hampshire's bias-free language guide. Campus Reform, which is a link for that, reported Tuesday. The guide notes that Americans is a problematic because it assumes that the U.S. is the only country inside the continents of the North and South America. The guide doesn't address whether or not the terms Canadian and Mexicans should be abandoned in favor of residents of Canada and residents of Mexico, respectively. Apply a similar rationale to the expurgation all of the verboten old words on the list, and you get the idea. UNH believes there's great virtue in restraining one's speech for the sake of other people's emotions, warning that otherwise enlightened students and faculty might be abusing their peers by the unwitting commission of microaggressions without even meaning to. A microaggression is subtle, often automatic, stereotypical, and insensitive behavior or comment or assumption about a person's identity, background, ethnicity, or disability. Guys, it teaches microaggressions may be intentional or non-intentional. If efforts to cleanse potentially offensive speech succeed at an institutional level, the world will become far less interesting, if more nobly homogeneous place. in an age when no one of public prominence wishes to offend anyone. Is there any wonder that Americans saw in 2015, whether they agree with the message or not, find it refreshing? Rather, a plain-spoken political candidate says what's on his mind. Oh my goodness. So the University of New Hampshire does contradict their state motto, live free or die. In the state of New Hampshire, does that motto, live free or die, does not reflect the University of New Hampshire. Oh my goodness, we can't say homosexual, fathering, mothering, American. I'm going to hurt someone's feelings. How weak and pathetic that they are. Well, it's not my fault if they can't handle the truth. Hey, I support free speech across the board as long as you don't make any potential threats or violate anyone's space. This is purely unacceptable and censorship. Very unconstitutional under their state constitution of New Hampshire. And you know what? I'm going to take the initiative in looking at that. Well, I like to say the people over there in the University of New Hampshire that supports this are a bunch of one big sorry pieces of trash. I'm not saying I'm better than them, but you know what? They're shooting themselves in the foot. And that is a real shame. They should just do what's right instead of bitching, being a bunch of crybabies. Good grief. And I like this here. Part first, Bill of Rights. And it says here, natural rights on Article, part first, Article 2. It says here, all men have certain natural, essential, inherent rights, among where they enjoy and defending life and liberty, acquiring and possessing and protecting property in the word of seeking, obtain happiness, equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by this estate or account of race, creed, color, sex, national origin. Yes, it does. So, what else do we have here? I like to have here too, part one, Article 1, right? Equality of men. All men are equally free and independent. That's equality of men, origin, objection of government. And it says right here, Article 4. Among the natural rights, some are in their very nature unalienable, because equivalent can be given or received for them of this kind of right of conscience. Interesting. Of course, we got here too. Now, Article 3. Yeah, when men enter into a state of society, they surrender up some of their natural rights in society to that society in order to protection of others. Without any such equivalent, the surrender is void. So they're violating the Bill of Rights of New Hampshire. Oh, yes, they are. They hate when I say that too, because I'm not some damn fool. So, yeah, I want to see if there's a free speech one around here. Let's just find out. But a lot of these rights are inalienable, so natural law supersedes the University of New Hampshire's policy. If that's a state-funded college, they gotta honor their own state's Bill of Rights. Of course, the U.S. Constitution as well. Don't get me wrong. And let's just see here. I think I can find free speech in here. I'm going to add this to my footnotes as well. So, ooh, yeah, sorry about that. Free speech, Article 22. Says here, free speech and liberty of the press are essential to the security of freedom in the state. They ought therefore to be inviolably preserved. Yeah, there you go. Bum, bum, bum. So it violates that as well. And it's in Article 30. Freedom of speech. The freedom of deliberation, speech, and debate in either house of legislature is so essential to the rights of the people that it cannot be the foundation of any action, complaint, or prosecution in any other court or place whatsoever. That's Article 30. Alright, that's Article 30. And that is it. So, I'm going to add this to my memo. So, add that to the memo, New Hampshire's State Constitution, Bill of Rights. So, like I said, my friends, the University of New Hampshire's policy is unacceptable, invalid, or other words, null and void. So shred it to oblivion. If they give you those policy reforms in New Hampshire, these students out there, use it as toilet paper and give it back to them with a big smile. And say, I say this out of love and principle. Okay? So, that's enough said about that. Alright. This one here just came out yesterday. Personal liberty. And this one's entitled 5 Facts to Help Bring Down Obamacare. It was done by Michael Bolden. He's actually from the 10th Amendment Center, by the way. Good stuff. Always check that article. Look up 10th Amendment Center.com. But he does write for personal liberty. And as it reads here, so if you want, actually came out yesterday, so as it reads here, so do you want to end Obamacare, but are wondering what you can actually do about it? You're not alone. You should wait for another Supreme Court opinion, support repeal and replace, or hope in all new Congress the President will do it for you in 2017? Look, don't kid yourself. None of these are going to get the job done. But for people who support the Founders' Constitution and personal liberty, there is still hope. As long as these strategies are quickly abandoned, here are the 5 important facts that can help Americans bring down Obamacare, whether the federal government wants them to or not. The IRS can't collect. Current federal law expressly prohibits the IRS from using liens to collect for failure to pay the shared responsibility, the tax under Obamacare. And even the IRS itself makes this information public on its website, as it notes. The law prohibits the IRS from using liens or levies to collect any individual shared responsibility payment. However, if you owe shared responsibility payment, the IRS may offset that liability against any tax refund that may be due to you. Earlier this year, a Washington Times noted that as many as 6 million people are expected to owe the fee this year, and even the office of Paul Ryan, Republican from Wisconsin office, acknowledged the inability of the IRS to collect should people refuse. All the IRS can do to get the money is ask an individual to pay it, and if they don't, reduce their future refunds. In other words, if you refuse to participate and you refuse to pay, they're not going to do anything significant. The feds can't run Obamacare on their own. It's already widely known that federal bureaucrats aren't good at getting website up and running properly, and they'll waste millions of dollars trying to do it. But states act as the front line for operation and enforcement for most parts of the federal act. Once he became boss, Al Capone didn't do a lot of his own dirty work. He paid henchmen to take care of things for him under his orders. Today, the state acts as henchmen for the feds. Some of them operate exchanges, which takes some of the burden off the federal bureaucrats. Others handle paperwork and other regulatory or enforcement needs for the feds. A report released in June note that states have already spent $880 million and 27.1 million hours handling such work for the federal government. Okay, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, what are you going to say about that? I'll proceed here. States don't have to participate. If the federal government didn't need help from the states, it wouldn't try to get it. But it puts heavy pressure on states to handle enforcement from the get-go. CCIIO, the Federal Center for Consumer Information and Insurance Oversight, has been working to collaborate with those states and really leverage state processes and resources to accomplish CMS's direct enforcement. Teresa Miller, who oversees implementation of the Affordable Care Act. Insurance reforms for CCIIO told Politico in 2013. Under the both Constitution and even modern Supreme Court jurisprudence, The states imply don't have to handle these big jobs for the federal government. In Federalist Papers 46, James Madison advised, as a first response to federal overreach, a refusal to cooperate with officers of the Union by individuals and states. He said, Doing so in multiple states would be extremely effective at stopping federal power and would present obstructions what the federal government would hardly be willing to encounter. In 4 major cases in more than 150 years, the Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld this strategy as anti-commandeering doctrine. Yeah, you can look up the Federalist Papers 46. I do have did an archive on that. I have an episode on that as well. You can read. You don't have to hear my lips, my rhetoric, but you can read it yourself from the Library of Congress, if I'm correct. So I will continue on here. The short version: Obamacare is a federal act, so the feds can figure out how to enforce it on their own. This, however, might be pretty tough for an entity that can barely get a website up and running. Things are already happening. While it is impossible to know how many people are already refusing to pay the so-called share responsibility tax, it is happening. Indiana accountant Scott Frick told the Washington Post that one of his clients, after learning he would have to fork over $850 for going without insurance last year, thought about IRS and decided not to pay just to see what happens. States are taking actions as well. On July 1st, a new law went into effect in Arizona that, among other things, bans the states from funding or aiding in the prosecution of any entity in a violation of the Act. This would prevent Arizona Department of Insurance from investigating or enforcing any violations of federally mandated health insurance requirements, something that could prove particularly problematic for the feds if other states take the same action, since federal government doesn't have the enforcement arm to handle such issues, nor do they have the resources to create one. Can we say 10th Amendment, my friends? A number of state legislations have already indicated that they plan on introducing legislation in 2016 banning states participating in various parts of Obamacare implementation or enforcement. This includes Senator May Beavers in Tennessee, Linda Collins Smith in Arkansas, Kevin Lundenberg in California, and State Representative Bill Chumley in South Carolina. In previous sessions, legislators in other states worked on bills to withdraw their state from all parts of the Federal Act. This includes Representative Jason Spencer in Washington, Georgia, Keith Frederick in Missouri, Tim Herman in Indiana, Mike Wrights in Oklahoma, and states Senators Bob Onder in Missouri and Chris McDaniels and Chris and Angela Burks Hill in Mississippi, and Delegates Joe Ellington and Larry Faircloth in West Virginia. It will be up to the people in those states to contact these legislators to encourage the introduction of similar legislation in 2016. Links are provided above. I'm going to have to find out when. This is above. Okay. This has been done before. American colonists used a multi-pronged strategy to protest boycotts, local legislation, and outright disobedience to bring down the hated Stamp Act of 1765. Prohibition and the Volstead Act went virtually unenforced well before being repealed. Massive individual noncompliance coupled with more than 24 states refusing to help with the federal enforcement led to the repeal. Individual resistance in the Underground Railroad coupled with northern states refusing to help enforce the Federal Fugitive State Act of 1850 helped render one of the worst laws in American history virtually null and void in practice, even though the law was not repealed. Taking action now. These examples of successful people's nullification should be seen as a blueprint for today. While state actions are a big piece of puzzle, the plenty for not. Having insurance is the linchpin of the entire federal act. But with no way for the IRS to collect the tax, some people are already displaying courage and refusing the mandate. Without enough sign-ups and without enforcement and support from a number of states, the entire system will come crashing down. As Michael Bolton. And you know what? Bolton. And you know what? He's absolutely right. And you have to always look at the bigger picture, my friends. Like I said before, they need us more than we need them. Always look at this Affordable Care Act fascistic anyway. So I am not too fond or too keen about that. And you know what? You know what? I have to commend Arizona. People may talk smack about them, but they're too late. When they do something right, I'm going to give them the thumbs up, like any other state. Florida needs to do that too. Okay? And you know what? Truth, justice, and the good two truths are not going to get us anywhere. So I'm going to look at this stuff and probably send it to my servants in the state of Florida and see what they think about it. I am really proud of what's happening in the 10th Amendment cause. Some people may still tell me the 10th Amendment's dead. You know what? I give them a penile microphone because they're mumbling. It never was dead. It just got reactivated. Been dormant for a good long time. So many of us can make things happen. Don't complain. Take action. You want respect? Has to be earned rather than given. Remember, like I say, demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul. It can liberate humanity. I say that with my heart and soul, man. This is just an example. What you can do to resist any forms of tyranny or oppression. Nice job there to those folks that are serving those states. And everyone within the United States of America can make a difference. And don't believe the hype from the lobbyists who are for this or against it. Go by your natural born rights. Plain and simple. Alright. Next one's here. Actually came from Alliance for Natural Health in Europe. And let me see here, see what I can do to get this thing read. Yeah, I can do it like that. Okay, cool. It's very interesting here. Alright, this one is entitled, How Maverick Cancer Treatments Are Suppressed by the Mainstream. It's written by Sophie. It was a while back, published a while back. But, you know what? It'd be addressed. It happened January 30th, 2013. But, I just checked it out today. So I'm going to read this for you. Mainstream medicine plays very dirty indeed to defend its near monopoly on cancer treatment, leaving a long trail of promising cancer treatments lying, ignored, and suppressed. In its wake, by the way, illustration, Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski may be on the verge of a hard-fought breakthrough for his anti-neoplastin treatment. Hope I pronounced that right. And his struggles offered an object lesson about the trials in store for another promising therapy, GCMAF. And the top facts, Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski, enormous struggle to make antidepressants available to the public as an effective cancer treatment might be about to pay off. His struggle may provide lessons for another promising therapy, his macrophage activating factor GCMAF. David Noakes, the CEO of Immunobiotech Limited and the spokesman for the first immune GCMAF, is attempting to bring GCMAF into the mainstream. Alright, and it says here the high-profile Dr. B. As you may have heard of Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski, discoverer of anti-neoplastin anti-neoplastons. Not only has his works received considerable media blogosphere attention, both favorable and hostile, but he's already been a topic of one documentary, which is in the sequel in the works. There's no reason for his visibility, unlike so many cancer researchers, for those to operate the mainstream model to cut, poison, drug, and burn. Dr. Brzezinski has stood firm against everything that has been thrown at him. What's more, he appears to be winning. What is anti-neoplastons? In short, they are protein components known as peptides that Dr. Brzezinski believes have a twofold role in cancer prevention. In his own words, the body has molecular switches, some of which turns off oncogenes, and others which turn on tumor suppressor genes. These switches are called anti-neoplastons, which are naturally occurring peptides and amino acid derivatives in the blood and urine that the body can naturally use to control the cancer growth. The name anti-neoplastons comes from their function in controlling neoplastic or cancerous cells. An example, anti-neoplastic cell agents. Anti-neoplaston landmarks. Dr. Brzezinski's story is long, involved, and breathtaking in short, in a tale of dog determination by one man to bring high-promising cancer treatment to the market in the face of a U.S. government campaign of intimidation, harassment, and sabotage, and attempted patent theft. To simplify things, we put together a list of major events in Dr. Brzezinski's struggle to bring anti-neoplastons to public attention and availability, which you can download here. There's a download for that. Brzezinski on Brzezinski. The stunning story is best summed up by a quote from Dr. Brzezinski himself. The entire orthodox approach is totally wrong. It's based on the microscopic diagnosis of cancer, which is about 160 years old. Without really looking at what is causing cancer, without looking for the genetic signature of the cancer. It is a terrible waste of resources, a terrible waste of human lives, because in the main line of these patients, obviously that will not respond as they could respond if they would have been given good medicine. It's a totalitarian approach that is good for the pharmaceutical companies because they will make billions of dollars. But of course, bad news for patients. The entire orthodox approach is totally wrong. It's a totalitarian approach that is good for the pharmaceutical companies because they will make billions of dollars. But of course, bad news for patients. GCMAF, anti-neoplastons Mark II, back in 1993. Nobuto Yamamoto, then working at Temple University's School of Medicine and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA, first described a remarkable molecule. His paper reported the conversion of vitamin D3 binding protein, DBP, known in human as GC, as a potent macrophage activating factor MAF, known as GCMAF. Macrophages are a key part of the human immune system with two roles: to engulf and destroy pathogens and cellular debris, and to recruit other immune cells to respond to the pathogen. Macrophages are crucial to both innate or non-specific immunity and adaptive or specific immunity under normal circumstances. GCMAF is upregulated when the immune detects a threat, activating macrophages so that they single-mindedly pursue pathogens. Sorry about that. Cancer cells, a prime target for macrophages, are clever little critters that secrete an enzyme, alpha N acetazosamidase, or Naglasi. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. that inactivates GCMAF, thus preventing macrophages from becoming activated and protecting cancer cells. Administration of GCMAF is proposed to bypass Naegelize, stimulating macrophages to become activated and attack tumor cells. In other words, it is a potent immunomodulator rather like anti-neoplastins. So why haven't most of us heard of it? Unlike anti-neoplastins, however, GCMAF hasn't had the benefit of a single patent owner. As a natural molecule, it cannot be patented without being modified. Then, with the will, resources to push under the noses of the public and health authorities, Dr. Yamamoto has run small human trials in breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers with promising results. However, he is by no means alone, as David Noakes is pains to point out. There's better research than Dr. Yamamoto's out there these days, and all is listed on our website. He says there's a website. There's a lot of links here too, so they're like underlined, so you can check it out yourselves. So it says here, David Noakes might just be the person to bring GCMAF into the mainstream. He's the CEO of Immune Biotech Limited and a spokesman for the first Immune GCMAF, a project he describes as PhD, BSc biochemist, biomedical scientist with external doctors, oncologists, and scientists who kindly provide advice, committed to bring an increasingly number of published but relatively unused medical cures to many people as we can. At the moment, Noakes and his colleagues are supplying GCMAF to 30 countries where it's legal via a network around 300 doctors. There, GCMAF is made to extremely high standards. It is being used in ongoing clinical research by Noakes, collaborators, and others. Their ultimate goal: build the case that GCMAF is effective for various illnesses, which will make it available to the public. That is interesting. I always say that too. Mother Nature is a lot more complex than what we think. So I'm just going to write this down for future reference. And just check this out myself, Alright, and I'll continue here. We've offered to treat Guernsey kids with autism or cancer with GCMAF for free, but they said no. An uphill struggle. Noakes has no illusion about the struggle he faces, as he explained to ANH International. Doctor cancers especially know what they're up against in countries like the U.S. and U.K. And all the U.S., there's only one doctor, Jeffrey Bradstreet, MD, who has far been prepared to put his head to the parapet about GCMAF. Many more to take cautious but pragmatic attitude. They might say to their patients, "Get it, but please don't tell me." Getting nowhere in Guernsey. Recently, Noakes said Guernsey authorities whether they would allow first immune GCMAF to produce the product in peace in their own laboratory, helping to take advantage of the island's historically liberal attitude and exemption from EU laws. We even offer to treat Guernsey kids with autism or cancer with GCMAF for free, and anyone with infectious diseases for 1/3 of the normal cost, but they said no, he reports and discussed. Guernsey has been declared GCMAF a legal drug. Unlike elsewhere in the world, it comes to something where Dubai is a better environment for the production and distribution of a potential life-saving treatment than Guernsey, the UK, or the USA. But there you go. In a topsy-turvy world, there is nothing more upside down than cancer research, as these two stories powerfully confirm. But anyone should be encouraged that Dr. Brzezinski appears on the verge of bucking the U.S. system. We wish Dr. Brzezinski, David Oakes, and his collaborators all the luck in bringing the potentially game-changing treatments into the mainstream, into the hands as of many cancer patients as possible. Yeah, I'm going to have to really look this into it a little bit more. But this is a really interesting, thing about this, So that's why I'm always support natural medicines or homeopathic products a lot more than the mainstream crap that's out there. And it really angers me because Mother Nature has always been more complex than what they want us to believe. So why we have to go through hoops and deal with these pathetic bureaucrats to tell us what's right, what's good for us, and what's not. In human nature, we own our own bodies, So, and I always believe in using these products. I'm always looking a lot further. I'm actually been a lot more minimal now on mainstream pharmaceutical stuff, which is good. So I'm breaking away a little bit. Because we all have these bad habits, but I'm learning a lot, matured, got a lot more wiser in my age. So we always got to believe that Mother Nature is a lot more complex than the pharmaceutical thinks. So definitely, you should check these people out, see what they're up to date. There's plenty of links to check them out, and even support their natural health regions as well. So if I get anything, I'll probably do it. If I get anything on this, I'll put it on the upcoming episodes as soon as practicable, and we'll just have to take it from there, okay? So, give them the best, and say no to Big Pharma. Alright, finally, this is from Radio Free Asia. Yeah, and this is entitled, Chen Guocheng vows to pursue justice as nephew is released from jail. Came out today. And he's in Washington, D.C., by the way. A photo of him in Washington, D.C. It says here, the nephew of blind legal activist Chen Guocheng was released on Wednesday after serving more than 3 years in a Chinese prison, and the U.S.-based Chen vowed to press China to hold officials accountable for years of persecution of his family. Chen Guocheng was detained on April 29, 2012, and lay sentenced to 3.5 years in jail for fighting off officials who had invaded his home and beat his parents in the wake of his uncle's daring escape from the house arrest earlier that month. He sustained a severe beating, but his assertion that he injured his attackers in self-defense were not considered in a closed trial. Yeah, because government knows best. Take a dump on that, right? Chen Guocheng told RFA's Cantonese service that first on his agenda since his release was getting physical examination and resting. My health is not good. I am trying to get well, he told RFA in a telephone interview. I haven't had a chance to get a physical checkup. I will go to the hospital to get a thorough physical exam, Chen Guocheng added, without giving details on his ailments. Chen Guocheng said he had, despite his release from prison, he expects to be placed under heavy surveillance in his home in Dongxingu village in China's eastern Shandong province. While the younger Chen said he was undecided about whether he would try to seek justice for what United Nations found declared was an arbitrary and unjust incarceration, his uncle Chen Guocheng said he will make sure his family's tormentors are held accountable. It is so very obvious about persecution without absolutely no reason. Chen Guocheng said of his nephew's ordeal. I'm not going to relax and stop pursuing justice for my family. Those responsible for our prosecution must be held accountable, he told RFA. Chen Gong-chen, a self-taught lawyer who exposed forced abortions under the child's one-child policy and defended the rights of ordinary people, had been living and studying in the United States since arriving in New York in May 2012 after a diplomatic standoff between Washington and Beijing. After 18 months of house arrest in the Dongjigo village, Chen Gong-chen outwitted his guards and made his way to the U.S. Embassy in Beijing, where Chinese and American officials eventually struck a deal allowing him and his family to go to the U.S. to study. In June 2014, the UN Working Group Arbitrary Detention said that Chen's Kagui's continued imprisonment was in contravention of the U.S. Declaration of Human Rights. The working group requests the Chinese government to take necessary steps to remedy the situation, which include the immediate release of Chen Kagu, to grant him compensation for the harm he has suffered during the period of his arbitrary detention, the ruling said. During his high-level diplomacy surrounding Chen Gong-chen's flight to assignment in the United States, China had pledged to investigate and prosecute those responsible for the abuse of his family members who were routinely harassed and beaten by thugs they believe were sent by local officials. Yet no publicly available information suggests that any of the officials involved in the vendetta have been fired, much less held legally responsible for the arbitrary detention, beatings, and tortures of the Chen family. Human Rights Watch said in a statement issued on the eve of Chen Kagu's release. The New York-based rights watchdog said the Chens were unlikely to find a remedy in China's current climate of repression, in which human rights lawyers and their staff have been rounded up and activists on a range of social issues have been silent. All these factors suggest that authorities won't respect Chen Kagu's rights post-release, that his freedom won't really be free. The Chen story mirrored those countless others. Those who defended human rights are imprisoned on Trump-up charges, while their tormentors are comfortable in the belief that they will never be held accountable, said Human Rights Watch. This was reported by Wang Lakto for RFA's Cantonese service, translated by Vivian Kong, written in English by Paul Eckert. Yes, this is just another example of government oppression. Remember, this is in China, so it's just another sampler. I would say that if you stand up for what's right and defending your families under the laws of human nature, you are the criminal or the terrorist. And you know what? I will give them my greatest homage for standing for what's right. And Chen Gong-chen, and, of course, his family, I hope and pray they will seek justice for what has happened to them, because imagine how many other people in that nation have been tortured, beaten, and unjustifiably got thrown in prison on Trump charges. There's a lot more. This is just an example, my friends, what's happening in red China. So, and that's another example of why governments are the most dangerous entity in world history. Like I said before many times, government in Latin means control of the mind. Never trust them, period. I don't give a damn what your views are. You always remain vigilant. And that's all I have to say. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to this episode. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, criticisms, or want to send me information, always use it with decorum. It would be greatly appreciated. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, or send your questions to iHeartRadio. My YouTube channel has been active too, so you can hit me on YouTube as well. That'd be great. Or you can feel free to email me at LokiLuck3, which is all together, at gmail.com. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.